anytime I want. I can be anyone I want. We're faced with a threat that can be anyone.
Dr. Banner?
No Banner, only Hulk.
You're not gonna get away with this.
You just hit me with a van!
Quit your whimpering. Suit yourself.
This freaking guy.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Marvel and Sony dropped a bunch of brand new footage for Spider-Man Brand New Day, so we'll break all these trailers down. Also seems like we get some confirmations about what's happening with Sadie Sink's character in the movie too, and a lot of deep cuts from the classic X-Men comics that they're going for. Fresh off the Infinity Saga of movies, we have a new cosmic force coming along ready to burn the MCU down to the ground. Thanos would be proud. We get a really quick montage at the beginning of the trailer with him fighting the Hand. There's a bunch of different scenes of this and some behind the scenes too that look really cool, with them going full Hong Kong action sequences with it, with a lot of practical work, which is why it looks so much better than the original Spider-Man MCU trilogy movies. You could definitely hear Tom Holland telling Kevin Feige, why don't we do this practically? It'll look so much better. And Destin Daniel Cretton, the director, also wanting to do so much of this practical as opposed to the John Watts era of Spider-Man MCU movies, which use heavy CG way more than they probably needed to. Also one of the reasons why the suit itself, like the Spider-Man suit, looks so much better. But the really big theme across this trailer is Sadie Sink's character hopping into other people's minds saying, I can be anybody that I want, any time that I want, in this really dark vibe to it as you still see her underneath her hoodie here. Even though when you crank up the brightness, you can actually see her face underneath, like she's wearing a mask and a hoodie on top of the mask. But the actual voice she's speaking with when she's saying, I can be anybody that I want, anytime that I want, is Scorpion's voice, which is from later in the movie, not the scene early with him during the winter with his winter gear on from the comics fighting him in a completely different scene, like a completely different part of the movie.
What's going on with you, Spider-Man?
He meets with William Metzger talking about this threat that can be anybody, anywhere, at any time, and Spider-Man is the only person who's immune to this and can sense it. I think the idea is that's because of his evolution in the spider cocoon. We get a much longer scene of him fighting the Hulk inside this building here with him transforming and Sadie Sink's character turning him into causing him to Hulk out again, and him saying full on, no Banner, only Hulk. And you notice that they've changed the Hulk's voice, or changed Mark Ruffalo's voice when he's doing Hulk voice, and now they're not using this weird auto-tune that they did during previous movies. It sounds like they're just letting Mark Ruffalo pitch his own voice down a little bit, so it sounds so much better, and now the Hulk also looks so much better. So the Hulk has never looked or sounded so great in several movies in the MCU, like it's been a hot minute. And we get a really cool scene of the actual mind wave, like the blast wave of the mind wave actually going off, and they confirm that it's coming from Sadie Sink's character when she's locked inside this damage control prison that looks kind of like a version of a room, but it's an actual prison, like she's strapped to the chair there, but it looks like a person's room where they tried to keep her trapped before, or maybe they created this before they trapped her. It's not really clear what the timeline is on this actual damage control prison. Feels like it would have taken them a hot minute to put this special prison together for her, so like this isn't something that they just cobbled together on the fly. And I think this is the closest we've gotten to an actual confirmation that she is playing the new version of MCU Jean Grey, and she'll be on that new X-Men reboot movie when it starts in 2028, in whatever the future that franchise winds up being. Like, she'll be one of the biggest main characters of the MCU focuses going forward after Secret Wars. And it kind of seems like they're trying to make a comp to the Sentry in the Thunderbolts movie with the Void personality, and that might be what's happening with the quote-unquote secret, unseen villain that we don't see in the movie, but we hear all the characters talking about. So people have been wondering, like, who is the actual villain of this movie? It might actually be the Phoenix Force. It kind of seems like Kevin Feige is just laying the track work for like whatever their future, their Phoenix Saga and Dark Phoenix Saga winds up being in the next 10 years of Marvel, because it is still like very early. It's like we're just meeting her character right now, so it would be weird if they just went straight to Phoenix right after doing Phoenix during the First Class movies with X-Men Dark Phoenix and Sophie Turner's version. The actual Phoenix Force is an ancient and primordial cosmic entity, immortal and indestructible. They did a version of the original comic book version of the Phoenix arc and the Dark Phoenix arc during the X-Men animated series episodes back in the day. So it was very Cliff Notes version, but that's closer to the comic book origins of that storyline. It's meant to be a mutable manifestation of the prime universal force of life in the nexus of all psionic energy, which does, has, and will ever exist in all realities of the multiverse. It is meant to be one of the most powerful beings in the multiverse, and it's capable of cutting and regrowing all of existence. The term that it uses is burn existence and things that it doesn't like away. Everybody remembering all the Thanos memes. Thanos was right. The Phoenix was right. Prepare for all the new memes. It is referred to as the spark that ignites creation and the flame that consumes it. It helps perpetuate the entire cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Its actual heart exists in the White Hot Room, a realm that serves as both an afterlife and a base of operations for the Phoenix Force and its different hosts. It exists inside the Mercon Crystal in the Shi'ar Empire, which they did adapt during X-Men the Animated Series, which itself is also a nexus of all realities in the multiverse. Kevin Feige has talked about doing more cosmic-based movies in the future. I would not be surprised if we see a lot of Shi'ar Empire in the future because we're doing so much X-Men stuff in the future. Feels like a lot of untapped potential in terms of Marvel doing like brand new stuff that they've never done in the movies before. The White Hot Room also exists in a place called the Far Shore, which is located outside the multiverse in the same way the god Loki at the end of Loki Season 2 existed outside the multiverse while he was tending to the different timelines of the multiverse itself. Like the TVA itself exists outside of the normal multiverse. The Shi'ar came to worship it as a god, and the other two gods of their people view it as their sister. Originally in the comics, Jean Grey was never meant to actually get the Phoenix Force. Her new upgraded power level was just meant to be an evolution of her basic telepathy and telekinesis powers. But in the late 70s and early 80s, the Phoenix Force travels to Earth when it senses Jean Grey's powers evolve to what was then Marvel's version of Omega level, but they didn't create the Omega level classification till like way later in the comics. The Phoenix Force senses her mind transcend reality and gives off a similar signature as itself after a young Jean Grey telepathically linked with the mind of her dying friend Annie Richardson to help keep her soul from moving to the afterlife. So the Phoenix steps in and helps her accomplish this goal, and then just continues to watch over a young Jean Grey as she grows up from afar. But at this point, it hasn't fused with her soul yet. That doesn't happen till a space mission later where she tries to save her fellow X-Men from a lethal radiation wave. She succumbs to the radiation poisoning and with her dying breath gives out this telepathic cry, so the Phoenix Force appears before her and says, "If you take my hand, you'll gain your heart's desire," which at the moment was to live and to save all of her X-Men friends. She and the Phoenix bond and become one, and then she saves all the X-Men friends. They come back to Earth, but then it gets super twisty, and they reveal that the Phoenix Force basically just replaced her body and cocooned her real body and kept it at the bottom of the ocean for a period of time. So for a while in the comics, it was just the Phoenix Force walking around on the X-Men team wearing a Jean Grey suit, basically pretending to be her. Then the events of the comic book Dark Phoenix saga play out. The X-Men animated series, like I said, adapted portions of both of these Phoenix arc and Dark Phoenix arcs, with a little bit of differences from the comics, like they simplified the comics quite a bit. More recent Marvel comics have retconned the Phoenix Force and started saying that the Phoenix and Jean Grey are just different aspects of each other, and it's more of a paradoxical cosmic entity where it's both capable of possessing other hosts, but a version of Jean Grey always exists in the White Hot Room, and it's capable of resurrecting itself and Jean Grey. So what came first, Jean Grey or the Phoenix Force? Like, where did this all originate? The comics have gotten way more complicated with it, goes way, way deeper. Marvel Studios' MCU version of this with Sadie Sink's character is also going to be very different from previous iterations of the Bryan Singer X-Men movies and the way they did it during the Sophie Turner version of the Jean Grey Phoenix arc. So just expect this new MCU version to play out very differently, but because Kevin Feige loves everything being connected at a certain level, like everything is connected, don't be surprised if they play on the idea that the Phoenix Force and the White Hot Room connect every version of Jean Grey across the multiverse, so it's really easy to have Easter eggs for the other versions of Jean Grey with the new Sadie Sink version, like the Famke version of Jean Grey and the Sophie Turner version of Jean Grey down the road. Normally, you would think Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars would be the place that you would do that, connect all these different versions of Jean Grey using like a central new bit of lore for the White Hot Room and the Phoenix Force. But because this is still very early days on Sadie Sink's character, it just feels like they'll wait to do any kind of bigger Phoenix storyline until at least after a few of these new reboot-era X-Men movies after 2028 with the new recast younger actors. But I do think this is the closest we've gotten to confirmation in the footage we've seen that during Spider-Man Brand New Day, she either already has the Phoenix Force, or this is going to be the Omega level event that her powers reach that causes the Phoenix Force to notice her and prepare to bond with her body. And the early theory now on the mystery villain that we haven't seen yet seems like they might be doing something similar to they did in the Thunderbolts movie with the Sentry and the Void personality, and the mystery character that's seemingly terrorizing all these people, jumping in these mines, doing all these crazy things to the city, New York City, R.I.P., might actually be the Phoenix Force just exerting its own power and not Sadie Sink's Jean Grey herself. So people have asked, why would they make Jean Grey a villain in the MCU? Technically, she would not be the villain. It would be the Phoenix Force doing all these crazy things. But everybody posts all your theories about this dark entity that's possessing Sadie Sink's character, making her do all these crazy things. Really just feels like Kevin Feige is paving the way for a new Phoenix arc in the MCU down the road. And we get a really cool full version of the scene between Spider-Man and Punisher where he shoots him onto the tank in the middle of that chase. And I love the way they quibble back and forth while he's on his car trying to get Frank to chill out. And he pulls out the same version of the gun that Spider-Man webs up. Like he has two versions of the same gun and then boom, just shoots him right onto the tank. And the big twist being the Spider-Man just basically slaps him right out of the back of his car, which feels like a very PG-13 but hilarious way to slow him down. Speaking of which, PG-13 Punisher, also why they webbed his mouth up. Tom Holland talked about this a lot, like, oh, the easy way around the rated R Punisher stuff that we couldn't do in a PG-13 movie is just to web his mouth up a couple times. But because we have Comic-Con coming up next week, most of the hype is on Avengers Doomsday and then dropping the first actual trailer at the Marvel Comic-Con panel on Saturday. Of course, I'll do all the videos for that, but because Spider-Man Brand New Day is coming out the week after Comic-Con, I wouldn't be surprised if they also try to slip some more Spider-Man stuff out during that week too. But I don't know if there's going to be a big Marvel or Sony panel just for Spider-Man Brand New Day. Maybe just some stuff in the background while the Avengers Doomsday stuff is happening. I think most of the attention is meant to be on Doomsday. There have been a lot of people wondering if Marvel's also going to announce some of the casting for the new rebooted X-Men movie in 2028. Personally, I think they're going to wait till later in the year just because it's so early days right now and they haven't even dropped the official Avengers Doomsday trailer yet. So I think we'll see that before we see them announce the official new X-Men cast. Everybody posts all your reactions in the comments below and all your theories for Sadie Sink's character and what you want them to do with her in the future of the MCU after Secret Wars. The other really big reminder is that we're in the middle of X-Men 97 Season 2 episodes. I'm doing weekly episode videos for that, so be sure to enable alerts so that you don't miss any of those. But during those, they're also doing a lot of this Jean Grey and Phoenix arc. We got a little bit of Phoenix during Season 1, and now that we have the Cable arc too, and the whole Mr. Sinister storyline with the creation of Cable's character in Apocalypse, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some more Phoenix stuff along that arc too. Everybody click here for all my Avengers Doomsday videos, and click here for all my other big Spider-Man Brand New Day videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.